Hi, I'm Hailey.
Hi, my name's Davina.
After my own weight loss journey, I fell in love with fitness. And now, as a personal trainer, I get to share that love with others every day.
And a few months ago, I realized that I was getting closer to the age of 80 than any other age. So I decided to embark on some physical activity.
And so together, with the help of some amazing female athletes, we're going to discover some fun new ways to be physically active.
So come and join us on The Only Girl in the Gym.
She walks in, all the heads turn. Watch her win, watch and learn. She's the only girl, the only girl, the only girl. She's the only girl, the only girl in the gym.
On the next episode of The Only Girl in the Gym, powerlifting.
Powerlifting. Hi, my name's Davina.
And I'm Hailey. And this is
The Only Girl in the Gym. And today we're here at Free Fitness.
And we're gonna learn about powerlifting from a very special guest, Janelle.
Powerlifting, is that the same thing as weightlifting?
Kinda. Why don't we go talk to Janelle about it?
Okay, let's go.
Hey, Janelle.
Hey. Hey, how's it going?
How are you?
Thank you so much for coming in today to teach us about powerlifting.
Awesome, I'm excited.
So, first question, powerlifting and weightlifting. What's the difference?
Powerlifting focuses on 3 lifts only, so squat, bench press, and deadlift.
Oh,
Okay, that's so
Okay.
cool. So, how did you start powerlifting?
I was training with Tony, with one of the owners here, and I wanted to do something competitive again because I had fallen in love with lifting and how good it made me feel, so I wanted to do something competitive. But the only thing that I knew in the fitness world was like bikini competition. So I was like, hey Tony, could I do a bikini competition? And he was like, you have a really great squat. What about powerlifting? And I was like, what is that? So he made me a deal. He said, try one powerlifting meet, and if you hate it, then we'll train for bikini. And that was it. It just took one meet, and then I was hooked.
how long ago was that?
2019.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right before COVID.
Right, so during COVID it became your passion?
Yeah, I went back to a little bit more trying to build muscle during COVID because I had my brother's like sand-filled weights from the 80s
Okay.
brought out. Yeah. So did what I could with those and lots of bands and home workouts and things like that.
Nice.
But yeah.
But it sounds like fitness has always been a big part of your life. What about powerlifting was what made it stick?
Honestly, discovering how much pushing yourself to the limit and how much empowerment it brings to discover your strength and what your body is capable of and how much it surprises you along the journey, I think is just incredibly addictive and empowering as a female, especially to realize just how much you're capable of in the gym and how much it affects the rest of your life, honestly.
And how does it affect the rest of your life? Like what?
Confidence.
Right, okay.
Yeah, because when you start building confidence in the gym as far as like being comfortable lifting weights and then also, again, that journey of surprising yourself with how much you can lift makes you feel like a little bit of a, badass. so that begins to build that internal confidence in yourself and what you're capable of and your abilities, which then transfers out into the rest of your life. So that's why I love strength training.
That's so cool. So, not gonna lie, as someone who doesn't powerlift, a lot of my perception of it is these like big burly dudes who are grunting and throwing around weights.
Yeah.
Is that powerlifting? Or?
Yes and no. Yeah, I mean, grunting does help lift more weight. It does.
Good to know.
Yeah, I think it's evolved a lot over the years. Definitely when I first heard about it from Tony, I also Googled and I was like, ooh, I don't know if this is for me. I'm not an angry, aggressive person. But I think it's evolved a lot over the last few years, especially it's exploded. Because again, it was a very small niche thing. But now I think a lot of women especially are starting to discover just how incredible it is.
Just was the right time, the tipping point, something just, women were ready to be strong.
Yeah. I think just as a culture, it's shifted from being so focused on getting skinny
Yeah.
to now being strong and healthy.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
so cool. Well, I'm so excited to learn. When we're powerlifting, what's the first thing we're going to learn about it?
Squats.
Oh, and you have a good one, I hear.
Yeah. A nice catch. Yes, squats are my favorite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Favorite. So.
let's go learn them then.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so we're just gonna go over the basics of a squat. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna get your weight in your midfoot. So if you think about tipping back into your heels and into your toes and finding that middle ground, your feet are gonna be turned out a little bit. You're gonna push your hips back and bend your knees. I think we all know what a squat is. That's the basics.
Okay. And so that's powerlifting, just a squat?
We're gonna add some weight on our back.
Okay.
So we're gonna put the bar on our back. You might hear two different terms around powerlifting, and that'd be a high bar squat and a low bar squat, and that's just where the bar sits. So either it's gonna sit a little bit higher on your upper traps, or it's gonna sit a little bit lower on the back of your shoulders, what we call your rear delts. It's whatever's more comfortable for you. In general, powerlifters like a low bar squat because it pushes you into a little bit more hinge, you're able to engage your glutes more, and it decreases your range of motion, which is the name of the game in powerlifting. When you're trying to lift as much weight as possible, you want to move it the least distance as possible.
All right. Huh?
So work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. So you're just gonna put it against the back of your shoulders. You're gonna stand it up, take one step back, adjust your feet into your comfortable stance. And then you wanna pull the bar around you because you wanna engage your lats. So your lats are the big stabilizer of your spine. So to keep your spine stable, you wanna engage your lats, keep them nice and tight. You're gonna push your hips back and sink into your squat and come back up.
Okay, so are there like any specific rules about how deep you have to go?
Yes. So with powerlifting, you have to get your hip crease below the top of your knees.
Oh,
Okay.
great.
So that is the one caveat with squatting in powerlifting is your hips have to be below your knees.
And you were always able to do that, hence a good squat.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there is 2 cues. So in a powerlifting meet, you'll have 3 refs, and they will call out cues for you to start and finish your lift. So the first one is you'll get yourself set up in your squat. Once you're set and you're still, they'll call start. Then you can squat, you come back up and you stop again. Once you stop moving and are successful, they'll say rack, and then you can walk it back in.
Okay.
And how do they decide that? Like, is there a timer, or are they just going with what your body is doing?
You have to be completely still. So if you're moving at all, they're not gonna say anything. And then you're just gonna be standing there for a long time with some weight on your back.
Okay.
Yeah,
I noticed you changed your shoes.
I did.
So powerlifting shoes?
Yes. So some people like to squat with a heel because it does put your center of mass a little bit more forward and allows you to then get a little bit deeper into your squat.
Oh.
Because if you can tip your heels up a little bit more, if you have limited ankle mobility, this can kind of help mitigate that if you're having struggles with hitting depth.
Okay, so I think we understand the basics.
Okay.
Let's try it.
Okay.
Okay.
If you want to grow your muscles in the gym, you need to focus on progressive overloading. This means gradually increasing the demands you place on your muscles. It can be done by increasing weight, increasing the number of reps you do, or increasing the number of sets. Have fun growing your muscles.
All right, that's squatting. So on to the next is bench press. So I'm sure you've seen all the gym bros in the gym doing this.
Okay.
In powerlifting, there's a couple different rules with bench press, and depending on the federation. So there's different federations and organizations within powerlifting. So some of them have slightly different rules. So some want your feet completely flat on the floor. Some you're allowed to lift your heels, but some part of your foot has to be touching. So in the IPF that I compete with, my feet have to be completely flat. The other thing is your butt has to stay on the bench. If the judges see daylight under there, then it's a no lift. And then also your head has to stay down. So those 3 points of contact have to stay down, and obviously your back is going to be on the bench. Usually we like to set up just outside of shoulder width. Depending on your shoulder mobility as well, the wider you go, the less distance you have to go. So with powerlifting, again, we're trying to move as much weight as possible. So if you can decrease that range of motion by going wider, great, if your shoulders allow. There is a cap on how far you can go though, is that you have to be covering the furthest ring. So there's these little rings on the bar. So your index finger has to at least be covering that ring. If you go outside that ring, then it's illegal. So you'll at least have to be covering that ring. I come a little bit narrower, and then I also wedge myself in. So I try to create as much arch as possible because again, we're trying to lessen that range of motion. So with powerlifting, you'll all see us arch as much as we can because we're trying to move as much weight as we can, but not very far.
Okay.
You'll see juniors, like those young kids coming up, and they're so bendy, and their arches look inhuman, and then they're moving the bar like 3 inches, which is crazy. But then that's how they lift like 3 times their body weight.
Right.
Anyways, so I like to wedge myself in, walk onto my traps to get those set. I'm gonna unrack, and then I set my butt down so I can set my arch, stabilize my feet, squeeze my glutes, push my lats down to my back pockets again, and then I'm bringing the bar down to the bottom of my chest and pressing back up again. So with powerlifting, you have to pause on the chest. That's another one of the cues that the judges look for before they tell you to rack. So yeah, going back to that with powerlifting meet, there's 3 cues. There was 2 cues with squat, and that was to start and rack. With bench press, they add that extra one in where you have to pause, and then they tell you to press because they need to see the bar stop moving before you can press again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's time for us to try it.
Just go ahead.
Go.
For quick recovery after your workout, make sure to have a mix of carbs and protein. Think sweet potatoes and grilled salmon to repair that muscle.
All right, on to the last lift is deadlifts. So basically we're just standing the weight up. So there's a couple different ways to do it.
You make it sound so easy.
That's right.
There's 2 different stances to take. So one is conventional, where your feet are right underneath your hips. The other is sumo, where you go as wide as you possibly can. Again, because this just decreases your range of motion. So this is why a lot of people go sumo, because you have less distance to go this way, and you're able to keep your torso a little bit more upright. You're going to use slightly different muscle groups. I go conventional because my hips do not like this position. So some people, depending on how their biomechanics are and how their femurs come out of their hip joint, may find wide stance more comfortable with deadlifts, squats, all the things. My hips do not like that, so I come conventional this way. So another big thing is lat engagement. Just like with the squats, keeping your lats pinned into your back pocket, or like you're squeezing like an orange between your armpits tight, any of those kind of imagery to get those lats nice and tight and engaged, because you want to protect your spine. And again, same thing as the squat, you want your weight kind of mid-foot, so not tip back in your heels. So you kind of want your weight a little bit more forward. Now for me, when I get heavier, I'm going to talk also about a couple of different types of grips you can do on the bar. So there's 3 different types. There's an overhand, double overhand, like this. You can do a switch grip. So this just stabilizes the bar a little bit more. And then the next step is hook. This is where you hook your thumbs underneath. So I do switch grip because that's the most stable for me. So what I like to do is come over the bar, get my grip set. I'm gonna set my lats nice and tight. My hips are gonna wedge down a little bit. And the next part is taking the slack out of the bar. So there's a little bit of room between the bar and the inside of the plate. So what we're gonna do is take the slack out of the bar, which is that clicking sound, so that when you go to lift, you can just lift straight up and it's not gonna pull you out first. You're gonna set your lats, pull the slack, and then you're gonna stand it up.
Great.
And the last piece with that is, as with squat and bench in a meet, deadlift only has one cue. So once you stand it up, have stopped moving, you've locked back your shoulders, your hips, and your knees, they're just gonna say down.
Let's give it a try then.
Okay.
Your turn. Nice. Oh, interesting.
Extreme sumo.
Nice. Good.
Oh, it's so far. Awesome. So now we've learned how to squat, bench, and deadlift.
And you yourself have won some competitions, is that right?
I hold some records in Alberta for squat and overall total in my weight class.
And what are those records?
I have a 407-pound squat.
Oh.
And to be honest, I don't remember what my total is.
But it's really good. That's all you have to
Too
know.
big of a number to remember.
Right.
So when you're competing to set those records, how does that work?
So they have competitions. So you'll be competing against people in your weight class and your age class, kind of similar to boxing.
Oh, okay. And so do you need to sort of rank before you end up at a competition?
So for
You just show up.
For local meets, you don't need any, there's no requirements. That's the great thing about powerlifting, is that it's very welcoming and supportive. You just need to do the lifts properly, basically.
Right.
But otherwise, there's no requirements to get into a local meet. And then once you start competing at like provincials, regionals, nationals, then there's qualifying totals you need to hit.
Right. And you have a competition coming up in a few months.
Yes, I'm competing in nationals in February again.
Okay. And so how long would you start training for that?
We've kind of started prep already. Usually, I'd say a rough guideline is about 3 months. If you want kind of like a 12-week prep is a good idea. Some people do less, some people do more, but we're kind of started that train already.
Right.
All right. Well, Davina and I have prepped for 0 days.
That's right.
Do you think we could try a powerlifting meet here today?
Absolutely, yes.
Awesome. Let's go try.
Okay.
I'm the only girl in the gym.
Oh, Janelle, thanks so much for showing us how about powerlifting.
Yeah, it's a blast.
We had such a great time. If there was someone who wanted to try powerlifting for the first time, what's one thing you would tell them?
Just find a coach, honestly. There's no barrier of entry. You can be 9 years old, you can be 90 years old. I would say just get started with a coach who can teach you proper technique, and then sign up for your first meet.
And how do you find a coach? Like, where do you go to a gym or?
Yeah, you can ask around. Referrals are probably the best bet to ask for a good coach.
Excellent.
Amazing. Well, why don't we go do another set?
Let's go.
I lifted some heavy weights. I think I'm gonna go try lift some heavy weights.
She walks in, all the heads turn. Watch her win. Watch and learn. She's the only girl, the only girl, the only girl. She's the only